Hey guys, Pastor Chris here. It's so good to be here with you tonight. For those of you that are joining us online, welcome to our online church experience. It's so good to have you. Just a couple updates and developments to keep you guys in the loop. I know we've been talking a whole lot about making these masks. Well, I posted an update yesterday that Meritor Hospital, Unity Point Meritor, they are officially now accepting masks. I have included some links on our page as to how you can make those masks. I know that there's a bunch of different people saying a bunch of different things, lots of different patterns running out there. The pattern that is linked is the pattern that came directly from the hospital that is encouraging us to make that one. I know that Joanne Fabrics is also offering a free, you can drive up there and they'll bring you out material and stuff, kind of like this little kit where you can make a mask and then you can return it to them and they'll get it into the hands of the hospital. You can do that, or you can also follow the pattern that is on our page and then bring those here to the church, and we'll make sure that those get distributed into the right hands. So there's an update. You can start making those masks. I believe that's the official news directly from the hospital, so we can get going with those. I want to remind you guys, this is kind of a recent development in the last little while. There is a community food pantry that's now out in front of the church that was made by Justin Kaufhammer, and man, we are so thankful to him for making that. In that, it's fully stuffed right now. So if you need anything at all, come check out what is in there. For those of you that are local, it's at 113 2nd Street here in Pardeeville. You can come and check that out, take out anything that you might need. If you have anything extra, you can leave that in there for somebody else, and together we're all work together to support each other. I think that is awesome. There's in the description of this video, there's a couple links. The first link is, we've been talking about this a lot over the last several weeks. If you need any errands run, please let us know. That link will take you directly to a form that you can fill out, and that form will go directly to us so that we can be in contact with you and help to meet those needs. There's also a link there if you need any prayer. We know that our God is bigger than anything that we face, and that we can put our trust in Him, and we never want to underestimate the power of prayer. So if you have a specific prayer request, please let us know by filling out that form, and we would love to pray for you. I know we talked about this in the last video, but it just means so much to me. I am so thankful to every single one of you that has taken your giving online to help support our ministry and our church here in Pardeeville. Like we've been saying, I'm not the pastor of a church, I'm the pastor of a community, and I am just so thankful of your generosity and what that says, that you believe in this church, you believe in what we're doing. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for every single one of those donations. They are helping out immensely during this time. So tonight, I want to take a few minutes to talk about this idea of focusing, or refocusing, if you will. This past week I had the opportunity, as many of you are probably watching a million different videos on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're getting your news right now, but I had the opportunity to watch this video from one of my friends from college, and he actually made this video and sent it out to his church. And as I was watching that, it really made me begin to think about things from a different perspective. I briefly mentioned this in an earlier video, but as our world enters into this like uncharted territory that we've never been before, as far as this horrible virus that's claiming the lives of thousands of people, schools closing down, sports, like big sports events, basketball, all baseball being canceled, people losing their jobs, people living in isolation from each other for weeks on end. And really, to some degree, the whole entire community, not just here in the United States, but as a world, has sort of come to this halt. There's no question that what we are experiencing right now might be one of the hardest things that you or I will ever have to face in our lifetime. For sure, this will go in the history books. For sure, our kids will have a story to tell to their kids. But this is probably one of the hardest times in our lifetime. And in this video, one of the things that my friend pointed out is that as a country, And really, as a world, we've essentially been stripped of all of the things through this crisis that we have been making idols. In a way, we talked about this a few weeks ago, that silver lining. In a way, this is kind of a silver lining. This is maybe one of those areas that God is using to shake and wake up the world for a second. You know, in a real way, this whole crisis, it's put a stop to professional sports. People who once found their meaning and their purpose and their value through their jobs, they've lost their jobs. The money that used to define who they were has been stripped away. Celebrities that were once idolized. I don't know if you've noticed this. I haven't seen any selfies lately posted on Facebook. If they are, they're getting smaller and smaller, and the followings are getting smaller and smaller as these celebrities and these people that we have idolized for so long are being removed out of the spotlight. Grocery stores, something that we take for granted, they're running low on food, running low on resources, stripping away some of those things that we depended on. And there's this constant question of even our health as more and more people each day are catching the virus. In a world where, you know, big houses, the latest and greatest tech, money, popularity, physical appearance, and power, where we idolize things and we find our purpose and meaning for life in these things. We're now living in a world where all of that has essentially, in such a huge way, been stripped away. And it's almost like God is saying, now that all of that's gone, now that the idols are gone, now that all of the things that you dedicated your life to following, all of that is gone and stripped away, now that you have nothing left and all that has been stripped away, maybe it's time that you can begin refocusing your life on me. Because through all of this struggles, where all of these idols have been stripped away and removed from your life, I've never gone anywhere. I'm still right here. Maybe it's time that we have a conversation. Maybe it's time that you come back to me. Maybe it's time that you come to me for the first time, because I have never gone anywhere, despite the fact that everything else around that you've idolized and made your little gods have disappeared. There's a story in the book of John, chapter 5, and it starts in verse 1 of John chapter 5. If you have your Bible, or if you want to follow along, or you can just let me read to you, that's fine too. But it's about this guy, and Jesus goes to Jerusalem, and it's during one of these big festivals, so there's a whole lot of people there. And in Jerusalem, there is this place called the Sheep Gate. And by the Sheep Gate, and I did a little research on this, the Sheep Gate was exactly just that. It's where they put all of the sheep. And next to the Sheep Gate was this pool. And people would go to this pool as a way to get healed. So it was, in a way, kind of like, it wasn't a hospital, but it's where people that had no hope went. And they went there in hopes that maybe by getting into this pool, that it would heal them. So Jesus comes across this person that has been laying by this pool. And check this out. This is pretty unbelievable. He has been, it says that he's an invalid, which means that he's unable to take care of himself. And he's been laying next to this pool for 38 years. Can you imagine? You know, we've been stuck in our houses for a couple weeks, and this guy, in hopes of being healed, he's been laying by this pool for 38 years. And this is what it says, picking up in verse 6, John chapter 5, verse 6. It says, when Jesus saw him laying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? Do you want to get well? Well, of course I want to get well. I've been laying here for 38 years. I have literally been doing everything that I can to try and figure this thing out on my own for the last 38 years, just in hopes that maybe one day things will click. Of course I want to get well. I'm sitting here. I've been doing this my entire life. And he says this in verse 7, "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, and this is so huge, notice that this is how the healing happens. It wasn't through getting in a pool. It wasn't through miraculously someone picking him up and moving him. Jesus then looks at him and says, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." That's simple. At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. As the story continues, Jesus leaves off into the crowd. This man doesn't able to see who actually it was that cured him and saved him. So picking up in verse 14, it says, "Later Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, 'See, you're well again.'" In other words, he's pointing out, look at, there you are. You're well again. You're able to walk. You're able to move. You're not still laying by that water, but something has happened. Something has changed you. He says, "You are well again." And then he gives him this warning. He says, "Stop sinning or something worse might happen to you." You see, here's the thing, guys. For the last 38 years, the thing that was the driving force in that guy's life was, I have to get physically healed. That's where I find my meaning. That's where I find my value and my purpose in life. And Jesus is saying, man, yes, your physical health is important. And I'm showing that to you now by healing you. But I'm teaching you something so much deeper. You see, while this guy was focused on his physical health, Jesus re-brought into focus through that one statement. He says, "Stop sinning or something worse might happen to you." And in that moment, he was bringing into focus this man's spiritual health. He was transforming it from this physical health to his spiritual health. He says, man, you just spent the last 38 years worried about your physical health. It's time that you start working on your spiritual health. Because if you don't start worrying about that, if you don't start focusing on that, if you don't start making that a priority, then something way worse than what you just experienced is going to happen to you. In such a real way, I feel like that might be a message that God is telling us right now. This message of refocus. You've taken all of these idols, and he says, I've stripped those all away from you. They're not there anymore. You're basically at your lowest point ever. They've all been removed. And in a sense, it's this wake-up call to refocus. You know, those things that you worried about once, that you spent your entire lives focusing on, making the priority of your life to try and get bigger, trying to get better, trying to find acceptance in this world that you live in. He says, all that's been stripped away, now you're left with a question. What are you going to do with your life now? Here I am. All those idols have been stripped away. I'm right here. What's this conversation going to look like? Because I love you and I care about you. And unless you stop sinning, something worse is going to happen to you. Refocus your life on me. Let's find meaning, real meaning. Let's find real purpose for your life. It's not on these physical things. It's in me. Let's take this time to refocus now that everything has been stripped away so that you can find me. Find the real purpose, real meaning for your life. I don't know. It's just something that's been going around in my mind. I know that when the world is going great, there's this sense that we don't need God because everything is going great. And sometimes it takes everything to be stripped away and removed for us to realize how much we actually do need him and how constant he is despite the hardships that we face, that he hasn't moved, that he's still there. It's just we have to make that decision to turn and to look to him for that. We have to turn to him, and he's waiting for us right now. So I want to challenge you today. I know that this is not an easy time for any of us. We're all struggling in some way here. But again, there's another silver lining. This is giving us an opportunity, with everything else removed, to find out what's really important in our life. Just like this man, once Jesus must have realized, wow, I've been trying so hard to figure this out on my own. I've laid there for 38 years and nothing happened. This guy comes into my life and immediately changes everything. And then he says, stop focusing on your sin. Start learning to trust me. Start learning to live a life that's with me, or else something worse is going to happen. And what is worse is going to happen is we're going to be eternally separated from God. And that was not the plan at all that God had. That's why he sent Jesus, was to save us. So let's focus on how we can take this time and reconnect with God. It's been great to be here with you guys tonight. And we will not see you tomorrow, but we will see you Sunday morning. Take care. We'll talk to you later. Bye.